Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November the 9th, 2017 special call meeting of Mayor and Council to discuss the budget. And I will call this meeting to order officially. And as far as the adoption of the agenda, I have one item I would like to add, or staff would like to add, and that's to include a budget presentation by Ms. Sarah Hefty. So are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion that we would.
Where did you put it?
Would
I want to know what order we're in.
There's only one place to put it.
Put it right above that A
Yeah,
on your paper.
Well, you could put it after the public hearing.
it's on the budget, so it would have to be before.
All right, it's a sub-I, okay.
All right, I make a motion that we add a presentation by Ms. Sarah Hefty to the agenda.
That's the first item, okay. I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, would you read the motion back, please? Any further discussion? Not all in favor? All opposed? Okay.
That's in the minutes.
Okay.
We got to compare notes from the other night.
It's a little different.
Ah, well, okay.
We'll see.
Your buckets look the same.
Still got the buckets. All right, good evening. We're going to discuss the 2018 budget again. Again, it's a little bit different, but we're going to still focus kind of high level on the big changes. So you go on to the next slide. So first, just reemphasizing that our fund accounting in the city is we have to think of it as separate buckets. Again, our general fund is healthy. Our water and sanitation funds, they are leaking. We feel like those are shorter term fixes, but our sewer fund is leaking profusely. It's unhealthy, and we're talking large dollars there. Our solid waste is unhealthy as well. It's not paying for itself, so it's leaking. But I didn't show it just pouring out because we're talking smaller dollars with that one. Again, they're separate buckets. Go on to the next slide. Just keep on re-emphasizing it's not just one big pot of money. So when we think about the city funds, government accounting, I have to account for it separately. You know, unlike at a corporation or something, it would just be one big accounting for everything, no matter what it is you're spending for. Here, our tax dollars have to be used for certain things, and then I think there's another slide. Go on to the next slide. I said if the federal government used Social Security tax revenues to pay for other divisions, then it would be a leaky bucket as well. Go back. And I said, oh, wait, they already do. So the federal government has a leaky bucket, too. We don't want to do that. Go on to the next slide. So, again, they're separate. Tax revenues need to pay for administration, police, recreation, and streets. We want water to pay for water, sewer to pay for sewer, sanitation to pay for sanitation, and solid waste to pay for solid waste. Okay, going on. So what if we don't raise the rates? When we think short term, if we didn't raise rates in this 2018 period, we would not be able to change the fiscal year. The way we've proposed it already takes the rate increases into account. And we're already showing it with $1 million loss from the general fund. If we were to not raise rates, the water and sewer funds, the sanitation and solid waste funds would need the subsidy back that we took away. So with that being said, that would be more money drawn from the general fund. So we would not be able to take the $1 million hit and subsidize the water sewer fund and sanitation solid waste fund as it would be required. So for the water sewer fund, the rate increases in the 2018 period are providing $1.2 million. So if we pull that out, we would need to subsidize the $1.2 million from the general fund. In 2017, we subsidized partly from general fund and partly from SPLOST. We're trying to get away from doing that with SPLOST, so it would be $1.2 million from general fund. Additionally, so when you're taking general fund money and paying for water sewer, you're having your taxpayers pay for water sewer. But we have homeowners who have septic tanks. So if you take their tax dollars and pay towards the water sewer side, these people with septic tanks are now paying for sewer debt and they don't even have sewer. For the sanitation and solid waste fund, we would need a much smaller subsidy, but it's still $265,000 is the increase in this 2018 budget that we would then have to subsidize from the general fund. Again, you're using taxpayer money for that. And another thing to consider is we don't provide sanitation and solid waste for our commercial customers. They have to go out and get that for themselves. But if we make them pay, so we've made them go out and pay for that themselves, and then if we ask them to pay through taxes, we raise taxes, general fund money, and have that subsidized sanitation, then they're paying for it twice. They pay for the actual service they get, and then they're subsidizing all the residents who aren't paying enough for the services that they're getting. Go on to the next slide. All right, here is a graph picture of what would happen if we didn't raise rates. So the red line shows the general fund reserves. So at the end of the 2016 audit, we had $5.2 million in our unrestricted reserve. I showed 2017, we expect a slight bump, just because, like partially is because, again, we took some of the subsidy from Splost this year. So anyway, there's 2017, and then the blue line, if we didn't raise rates, the blue line would be the transfers that we need from general fund to the enterprise funds. You can see that it grows because our bond payment's growing. If we did GFA to fix some of our water sewer projects, that would need to be paid for, and the water sewer fund wouldn't have the money to do that. So the blue line, you can see the transfers are growing, and the red line, you see the general fund reserves dropping off steadily. So we would just, as I keep saying, we're going to eat into our cash and our reserves of particularly the general fund. The top yellow arrow shows where we are as far as the 40% requirement. Remember, our fund balance policy for the general fund says we need to have 40% of our operating expenses. So that's like when you think of your own personal self, you know, they recommend having 3 to 6 months of expenses in your bank account in case you were to lose your job or something like that. That's our equivalent to that. But you can see we dropped below that by 2017, 2018, if we're looking at the transfers. And then by the end of, between 2019, and 2020, our reserve is depleted. So how would we overcome that? Go on to the next slide. The only way to fix your general fund at that point would be to raise the millage rate. So Villarica has held a millage rate within the six range. With 2017, our millage rate 6.365. That's the lowest millage rate in over 10 years. But you can see, and it's hard to see on the slide, those last 3 years, that's 2018, 2019, and 2020. If we didn't raise rates, we would have to account for it in the millage rate. Just trying to show how much of a millage rate we're talking about when we're talking about $2 million. Go on to the next slide. To pay for, so 1 mil is equivalent to roughly $500,000. So in order to pay the debt, the bond, 1.7 to $2 million, that's roughly equivalent to 3.5 to 4 mils. So you take your 6.365 millage rate and you add 3.5 mils to that, is what I'm portraying here. And then in order to pay the GFA loan back, that would be an additional $500,000 per year. So that would require an increase of another mil. Okay, go on to the next. And hit the slide one more time. Hit the arrow. So, I know I keep showing this slide, just want to keep reiterating. Yes, we're talking about the 2018 budget, but our focus has been financial health by the year 2020. So, as you've seen in the graphs and things, we're at a critical point, not just in the water, sewer, sanitation, solid waste, and where they stand, but what that's going to do to our general fund. Okay, going on. All right, so what does it cost for 1,000 gallons? And we've talked about this different ways. We did the candy bar example and all that. And when we did that, I think we still talked more on like a average customer bill. But this is looking at for just 1,000 gallons. If you look first, the current rate for water and sewer compared to the cost of what it costs us for 1,000 gallons and the shortfall at the current rate. So again, sewer, we've seen the bucket, it's draining profusely. You can see we lose $3.89 on sewer for every 1,000 gallons and $1.17 for water. This is just talking about the volumetric rates. I don't want to get too technical, but people do pay a base rate. I'm looking more at the volumetric portion, so I'm comparing volumetric rates. Down at the bottom, the proposed rate, and this is from Raftellus. So the proposed rate for that tier 1, would be, would still not be enough, because again, we're talking about spreading the rates over 3 years. You can see the shortfall, though, has decreased. So the shortfall for water would be 90 cents, and the shortfall for sewer would be $2.10.
Sarah, would you define shortfall?
So that's how much we would be losing per 1,000 gallons for each water and sewer.
Thank you.
Again, this is tier 1. Now, as the tiers go up, the tiers are structured to promote conservation, so the rate is higher as people use more water. So someone at tier 2 or tier 3, we may not see quite as big of a shortfall because they're paying higher rates for that extra use of water. Go on to the next slide. All right, what does it cost to have a clean city? So now we're talking about sanitation, which is our waste industry's garbage pickup, and solid waste, which is the curbside pickup that our street department does. So our current loss, based on the current rates, we lose 74 cents on sanitation for every customer. And for solid waste, we lose $7.44. So you can see the cost is about the same for both, even though what we charge is substantially different. Down at the bottom, the proposed rate for each compared to the cost. Again, we're having to spread that over time, but the loss with the proposed rate is 24 cents for sanitation and $4.94 for solid waste. Okay, going on to the next. Go back one. Okay, thank you. All right, this is the same slide we've seen. So I just showed you what it costs per 1,000 gallons. So now when you look at a customer who uses 4,500 gallons, when we put it all together, their increase with these proposed rates would be $12.17 per month. And on the next slide, the proposed, what a proposed bill for the low-income senior would be, an increase of $9.96. And again, this is average consumption of $3,000. Okay, going on. Talking about the senior discount income limit, what we have proposed is 2 times the poverty level, which is $24,120. But here I'm showing more extrapolations of that, I guess, so 3 times and 4 times of that. Just kind of wondering what the council's will is, or I guess preference is more on this. I know we've had various conversations. There are, like Douglas County, they don't go as high as these numbers, but they do look at numbers of people in the houses and stuff. So there may be options there. So we wanted to go ahead and show what it would be at higher levels. Okay, going on. Go back one, Elisa. Okay, one thing we haven't talked about are commercial and industrial examples. This is a commercial example. So for a 1-inch commercial customer, average consumption being 10,000 gallons, 10,500 gallons, you can see they would have a $21.44 increase per month. And then for our 2-inch commercial customers, they are using an average of 46,000 gallons per month, and their rate increase would be $136 per month. Okay, go on. Industrial, average, well, this is a 2-inch industrial customer. We have bigger 4-inch, 6-inch, but that's 1 or 2. So I tried to grab the group with the largest number. This is a 2-inch industrial, and their average is 42,500 gallons per month, and their increase would be $87.55. So they're charged on tier 1 rates, industrial is. So that's what that's based off of. Okay, going on. All right. Just here, in the future, we would once we get over kind of the larger hikes in the 3 years, we would hope to propose gradual increases over time instead of the large increases all at once. So you see the dark line would be, I just have years in the future. From year 1, I think, to year 10, you can see the gradual increase, and I think that was 3% over the time. And it may not have to be that much, but then you see the difference of doing the same increase in 1 year. So I think that's all I have. Yep. So now we can open it up for discussion.
Can I ask a question? Excuse me. The way we charge according to like the pipe size and that sort of thing, Did that all come into the study as to, is that the proper way we need to be doing that for the different commercial and industrial customers?
That was done before. We do that now. So, best I can tell, that was at least 10 years ago. I mean, I've seen it on older stuff. I don't know if anybody remembers when that was, but
No, and then last year, during the drought, is when we made the different tiers.
we added a tier to our inside residential customers and inside seniors. So right now, well, in the past, nobody paid for that first 1,000 gallons. It was included in your base. So when we had the drought issue, we made everyone start paying for that first 1,000 gallons. So yeah, that happened in December of 2016.
So is this the most fair way to do it? Is it water usage, pipe size? I don't really totally get, and I don't have to get all of that,
Yeah.
but is it the most fair way to do it with the pipe size, or we've just done it that way?
Right. I haven't studied what they did in 06 or 07 when they put that in place, but yeah, typically it's a pretty technical scientific study where they're seeing how those different pipe sizes are impacting the system with the amount of water they're using, and so that's why you charge different rates. If Tom or Pete have any different ideas, but that's how I understood it.
Pete, do you want to talk about capacity or the tap fee and sort of the thinking behind that, and then the tiers coming out of the, North Georgia Planning and Conservation and that whole organization?
I don't know if I can do it justice, but I'll give it a shot. Basically with these tiers, just what she mentioned earlier, the more volume someone uses, the more cost it would be to them. So that's why you see these higher increases. So yeah, it could be related to pipe size, because if a business or an industry is bringing in more flow to their facility, they have greater carry capacity to bring that water to them and have it available to them. Okay, so capacity fees for building the infrastructure to provide that readiness is figured into the cost when these rate studies are done. And other than that, I think that's kind of the crux of it, really, those two issues right there. Unless you want to add to that, Tom.
Well, I mean, the simple answer to me is that the more you use at any one time, the more it costs us to have the pipe in the ground to service it. So if you're a little user and you use the same amount of water all day, then you can have a small pipe. But if you're a user that uses a lot of water at one time or a lot of water all day, it takes a bigger pipe and more infrastructure, so you pay a higher base. What we do is we follow, we being what Raftellus has prepared, we're following the model that's been presented by North Georgia Water Planning Commission, agency, authority, something, whatever that thing is.
Water district, yeah.
Water district, okay. So there's a mechanism out there that's recommended that is pro-conservation.
And that's what we're doing.
And that's what the
Okay.
tiers,
I'm good.
that's where the tiers came from. And we were way behind doing it. Although maybe not way behind for being on the west, outside of Metro Atlanta. But Metro Atlanta went to, I don't know, do you remember, Vicki, when tiers became sort of mandatory? It's been a long time, because I can remember doing tiers at least one time ago in East Point, which was before Fairburn and before Macon. So I mean, that's getting on back there pretty good.
Thank you. Thanks.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the same time that we went to irrigation meters in Mirror Lake. Well, really all over everywhere, but Mirror Lake was predominantly because they had a lot of irrigation they wanted to do. And it's a completely, totally different meter. And the reason that we went to the Northwest Georgia Planning District, whatever it is,
is because of Mirror Lake being in the city of Villa Rica. If it were not in the city, then the requirements and mandated things we have to do would not affect us because we were not be part of the metro Atlanta area, being in Douglas County. Seems to be 11, 12 years ago, something of that nature. But the idea was, as you said, the water conservation was the whole thing is, and for some reason they had numbers available that we didn't want to reinvent the rocket, so we took those numbers and put it out there that a residential person used more than 3,000 gallons, he went to a different tier, and more than another number, he went to another tier, and it was a step up, graduated step. And the bottom line was, if you want to use the water, great, but you're going to pay for it. And that's where it started with, and then it was developed into the industrial park. The line size and the meter size was hefty. I mean, there's meters that in the industrial park that, what, $35,000, $40,000 just for the meter. Then the water is on top of that. So especially a high water user. But that's part of the reason why the city of Villa Rica took it on itself to be proactive in trying to be conservative with all the water usage that we had at that point in time.
I was withholding my comments to last, but I guess I'll go ahead. Just some observations, talking to staff, even as late as this morning. It occurs to me that what we're facing here is a critical situation, and it's really a decision as to how we want to move forward as a city. And the two things that we're talking about here, and it's been mentioned, but it's important to understand that we're either dealing with a millage increase to pay for this or a pay-as-you-go. That's the two systems. And if we do a millage increase, that affects everybody. Pay-as-you-go, the more water you use, the more money you spend. And so that's one point I just wanted to kind of talk about. And the other thing is that not only is this going to affect our fund balance, which is extremely important, but this could also affect, or will affect, our level of service to our customers, in that without the general fund keeping up and continuing to have to subsidize the enterprise fund, at some point it could affect the level of service that we provide. We may have to face a situation where we have to cut down on the services that we provide, or it may be a situation where we're going to increase in population, so I know we're going to need more police officers. And, we're going to face that situation where we have to decide if we're going to go up on the millage rate anyway, but to fund the police officers. So there's a lot at stake here. And I have probably, I know Tom and I met earlier this morning on it because I stayed up half the night thinking about it. And so I commend some of the things that we talked about this morning were in this presentation, and I appreciate you doing that, Mr. Sarah. Appreciate you.
Okay, this presentation is built into this budget we have been reviewing, right? These increases in the
Yes.
enterprise funds.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we're still using am I reading this right, $2.4 million worth of fund balance for the 9-month period? Use of fund balance,
What page are you on?
13.
That includes SPLOST.
How much of it is our real fund balance in?
If you go back to page 11, in the blue column, so it's the last revenue line, the use of fund balance. You can see for general fund, it's $1 million, and everything, the other uses of fund balance is actually SPLOST. So like, we're using $500,000 of our old Carroll County SPLOST from 2008. That's money that's sitting in the bank. It's not being actively earned right now. It's already there, so it's considered in fund balance. So I have to show it that way. Same thing with our 2015 Carroll County SPLOST and our 2016 Carroll County SPLOST. So yes, it is using fund balance, but SPLOST projects, those last 5 to 6 years.
So all of the 2.4 million actually looks like it's all come out of SPLOST.
If you trace back to the general fund, you'll see the 9 million, the 1 million, not 9 million, $1 million.
999, okay.
Yes.
362,
deficit
all
that you
right.
see there.
As far as,
Is that
I'm
real
sorry.
money? Or,
Just monopoly money.
It's not, right, it's not like a cash loss because it's coming out of our fund balance. So basically, we're
It's
subsidizing
transferred
ourselves with fund balance.
It's reduction in our fund balance.
Correct.
On the senior discount, I'd like us to kind of go with the original plan of the $24,000 limit. We were talking about this truly being for needy, low income, but at the same time, we all need to help to a degree. Everybody's got to help some with this to get out of it, and I don't think we need to go up to 3 times and 4 times.
Actually,
Poverty level.
I looked up some numbers on that senior thing. I looked up the Medicaid numbers, what their allowances were for low income. And it's considered a low income one person, 30,000. And if it was 2 people, it was 40,000. That's what Medicaid uses, in Georgia.
Medicaid is also failing, so it's failing. We want to stop failing. We want to be healthy.
Question is, how many seniors are going to qualify at 24,000?
We don't know.
Any?
The budget, we estimated in the budget, 25%, because it wouldn't just be qualifying, they would have to, the burden of proof would be on them to bring their tax returns to show.
How are you
us.
going to police that? What are you going to ask for? What kind of proof are you going to get?
I would say tax return unless someone
Yeah,
has a
1040.
better idea.
Yeah, we talked about it at the library.
That's what we did, was 1040. And what we talked about in here, or the library, was using AGI and not, well, not something higher up in the form before you had passive income. So it'd be any kind of income. So that would be a quantity of people that we're not, I honestly don't know how we would know until we do it. Because I think it's not only obviously a smaller percentage than we're doing now, but getting the word out to people and then them taking the time to come apply. I just don't know how
In February of
often
2016,
we're going to be successful with that.
yeah, in February 16, we audited the senior discounts and we made everybody reapply. And we had a good turnout, of people who had gotten the notice, but
Which, that's kind of a segue, and the last thing I wanted to mention, not that this is going to be the last thing we talk about, but I want to see a document that goes out with every water bill, with charts, with whatever we need to all look at and agree with, so that the public knows what we're doing, why we're doing this, and what we're doing, and how this is going to affect each of us. I like the ones that show how much your water bill is going to be. I just don't want everybody to be surprised at the last minute. We just talked about how we're going to get the word out. This is how we're going to get the word out. The best medium that we have that I see is the water bills, because that reaches most of our, if not all of our customers. So I don't think we can get out the word. I don't think there's such a thing as not enough information. And so to the extent that we can, I want to blast that to everybody so that everybody has a chance. I mean, look at, the turnout, just a few people here. So I don't want that. I want everybody to know what's going on.
Another good way is through the church, because, I do the announcements at our church, and whatever that I think that they need to know that it's going to benefit them, I do that. And I know some of the other churches do that too. So, along with your bill, that's a good way of getting information.
I agree completely. And any other medium, talking, Lions clubs, Kiwanis clubs, any groups, whatever we have to do. I just want to, the worst thing we can do, I think, is just not let people know why we're doing what we're doing.
And in a way that they understand. I love when you break it down, this is what it will do for the average customer. Here's, because it's just so understandable that way. And so we'll send it out in the Villa Rica Happenings. I'll send it out in my email, but the bills will hit the seniors that don't do email, because I do have seniors that don't do email, so the only way for me to communicate with them is either to call them or show up at their door. Whereas I can blast it out in email, and the city can send it out that way and put it on Facebook, but we got to meet the people that, don't do the electronic communication, so.
How about the people that do electronic and don't get a printed bill? Can we,
We have about 450 of those. And when we did the cycle changeover, we contacted Express Bill, and they worked with us, and they actually they did an email blast for us too, so we can get their help on that.
Oh, good.
good?
I'm guessing that most of those people probably maybe get the Villa Rica Happenings. I mean, every time, even when I was knocking on doors, do you get the email, the Villa Rica Happenings? Do you get that email at the beginning of the week with all that information? I kept trying to encourage people, and I send it out in my email. Do you get this yet? If you don't, call the city. Tell them you want to be on that list, because there's so much good information in it, so.
Another thing that we've not talked about is the effective date of the increases. And if we don't approve this until December the 5th, doing a January 1 implementation doesn't seem practical, although that's what we budgeted, because it only gives us 3 weeks. And even if we're successful in telling people, it doesn't give them any time to adjust.
So what's your suggestion?
February?
I don't know, we've talked about February the 1st, so, but that's up to council. I just think it's appropriate to not only tell them, but give them, like a personal financial monthly budget cycle to get it together, to get ready, even if it's $12, if you're on a fixed income.
Right after Christmas.
Yeah, and you got Christmas to deal with and whatever else.
Well, and we just
I'll
now,
go with whatever you guys think is.
we're cycling the water bill now, so they're getting accustomed to that. Now this is gonna come. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm, if it's feasible, I'm okay with pushing it to March. I mean, you all tell me, but, the more time we've got, the better. It just gives people time to think about
We
it.
just lose the revenue. What's the monthly revenue?
Well, the increase in water sewer is 1.2 million, so if you divide that by 9, we're over $100,000 that we would lose the months that we don't activate it.
We'll need y'all to decide that in the budget on the December 5th, if y'all want to talk about that. So one thing one way of talking about this that I think would help you as you respond to people that have questions is, why should these two funds, especially water and sewer, make money? And I think if you can't answer that pretty succinctly, that it makes it much more difficult to explain rate increases. Because what I'm recommending to you guys is that we allow the two funds, and especially water and sewer, to take on the personality of a business. And not only is it not, is that fund not profitable, nor is either side of it, water nor sewer, profitable, but they're both losing money. But they need to make money because their direct expenses are not their total obligation. If you look at the cost of making water, the cost of running the fund is significantly more than the cost of making water, because you've got maintenance, you've got allocated expenses to pay the portion of the cashiers and the people that do billing and the collections and cutoffs and all those things, and you've got debt. So we can't just price the service at the cost of making water and be able to cover those other costs. And on the sewer side, the same thing. That's why when we look at what the guys are quoting us from the two authorities, they're quoting us figures around $4 and $5 a thousand. But if you look at what we're charging, you know, we're not competitive, and we're not covering our costs. So we're talking about a completely different way of thinking about this fund in particular, from it being a parasite or a leech on the general fund, which is what it's been historically, to it being a business and run like a business. So it's a big difference. I mean, it's a night and day difference. And it's as different as the changes that I think you guys want to see in other areas of the city, where from the standpoint of the values of the organization and the way that we operate, that we become more efficient, more customer service focused, better organized, so that we don't have maintenance happening in 3 different places in the organization and events happening in multiple places, where we get things centralized and more coordinated. I think you want to see those kind of changes in the sort of the civilian piece of what we do, but we have significant changes that we want to see made in the culture of that fund. And what that will do is it will give Pete a fighting chance, because right now he does not have a fighting chance. He is in a delaying action, trying to not die. He cannot win. There is no winning without money to fix the problems. And so at some point, we're gonna die. I mean, we're either the fund is gonna fail, the operation of the fund is gonna fail, or we continue in this leaching action and we suck all the reserve out of the general fund. I mean, that's our future. One of those is our future unless we do something different.
And I want to add one more thing. It will allow us to be proactive rather than reactive, which is what we are now. We react when we have pipes in the ground that are decayed, which when we've known for years that we had decayed pipes. And one more thing that I would like to add to it, having worked in the government sector for most of my adult life, the days of being able to rely on SPLOST referendums to fund projects, I don't think we need to rely on that any longer. I think if we look at our sisters and brothers to the east, west, north, and south, SPLOST referendums don't always pass. If we have SPLOST referendums that don't pass in the future in Carroll County, it's going to exacerbate the problem. It'll be even worse, because we've used SPLOST money to try to piece together what we have now. Is that a true statement? So I think, trying to rely on SPLOST in the future is a, that's a bad gamble on our part.
So our SPLOST revenue is equal to 20% of our general fund. Is that right?
That's high.
So if we're doing 12 million in the general fund and 2.4 million in SPLOST, that sounds like 20% to me. Am I doing that right?
That includes use of prior SPLOST.
Well, I'm just thinking about how much we get per year.
Okay.
We're getting
Yeah.
100,000 a month from
Yeah.
each of them, right?
Yes.
So the revenue, so if we were to take a 20% hit from losing both SPLOST programs, then we would not be viable in the short run. And if we're being leached by the water and sewer fund at the same time that that's happening, then
So Pete's on
We
the
wouldn't be viable.
Titanic, and we've given him a tablespoon and said, here, start getting that water out of there, right? I mean, that's what I feel like we're kind of doing, because we go around, we fix everything, and we're taking enough money to cover what we've got to just cover all the Band-Aids, but there's no money to put aside for everything we got to do in the future. Build more and, repair and add new people as we grow and stuff like that. There's nothing there.
Yeah, the word that we don't use is desperation. But when I got here, my perception is that Pete was he was in despair over his inability to fix it, even though he'd been here long enough to understand it. I didn't understand it, but even the first morning, and the staff can testify what my first morning here was like, it was awful. Not just the content, but the context of being told that there was this litany of problems with no money. And not just no money, but negative money. You know, we're sucking money out of the general fund. So, I mean, what the decision that y'all are making is whether we have hope to fix this or not. Because if y'all don't want to do this and y'all want us to continue with this parasite thing, you know, or whatever, then we don't have any hope of this getting better. And eventually, it's going to affect him, and it's going to affect her, and it's going to kill him. I mean, that's how, I don't want to understate, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I
And
don't
we have
want to
more roads
understate
we
the
can't pay.
situation we're in.
Let me ask you a question, Tom. This whole presentation tonight has been about the rates, the sewer rates, and I'm looking at the calendar. So it says tonight we got this special called meeting, then on the 17th, we're going to submit the final budget to the city clerk. Are you all looking for us to answer tonight whether or not we're going to go with these rates that you've proposed? Because we've talked about these at every single meeting we've had. We've taken informal votes. We all got here together. And now, is that the question? Do you want to know tonight whether we're going to go with these proposed rates?
I mean, the sooner the better. All we're doing is delaying everything that Tom just mentioned.
It'd
so.
be irresponsible to
delay
do
this,
anything else.
The more we have to talk about when we're going to notify the public and how much of a delay that's going to be.
Right.
If we get right down to it and make some decisions,
Yes.
I don't see how that's not immensely helpful.
I don't see why that doesn't start in December, notifying the public.
Sure. But we've got to tell them what we're going to do, and that's
Well,
what
we
this
don't
whole
pass it till
presentation has been
December.
about. Well, the actual budget.
Yeah,
But
yes.
if they know
Right.
what we're going to do here, they can prepare.
I'm ready to go.
I'm
ready to go.
too,
I don't see any other option except to be totally irresponsible with the city.
And I support the senior discount at the $24,000 rate that is in the proposed budget as well. However, like probably everybody up here, I wouldn't mind looking at that again in a year. Let's see what impact it had. I don't know what impact it's going to have. They don't know. You all don't know. You won't know until you actually see how many people show up and qualify. And I'm willing to look at it again.
Do we need to do anything else on water or sewer? We can move on to a,
I don't think we need to actually take a vote tonight on water and sewer rates. I think the staff does need to know it's hard to put a budget together when this is obviously you didn't know what revenue you have coming in and the direction we're going to head. So if the council were to say in unison, or in majority anyway, that they are not in favor of rate increases on water and sewer, I think that would, the staff would have to come to us with a budget that reflected that.
Okay.
That's why I, posed my question when I was asking, and saying, where, you just saying we don't have the money, we're not gonna have the money if we don't do something. And then when I asked the question, it was like, duh. So we gotta do something. We can't just sit here and act like, it's gonna pass over just because, we know there's a problem. And as long as we keep dragging it out, talking about it, it's just increasing the problem. And you keep doing things with money that sometimes I think is not the right thing to do, but hey. And then you say, we don't have money over here, and then over here we'll find money. How you gonna find it over here when you don't have it over here? Now, I'm not the smartest thing up here at this table, but I got a little sense to know that you can't, you can't just get a turnip out of ground and let some turnip in there. So we need to do something instead of keep talking.
One of the issues that I keep listening and hearing is the idea that, we run the place like a business, and that's been talked about too. The bottom line to the whole scenario is we don't want to lose money. We need to make sure that we don't lose money. And most of the things I'm seeing here and have seen for the last 10 years, that we lose money. So we've got to figure that out. Now, the next question is at what point in time do we make money? Whether or not we decide that's something else we want to do. And if that's so, how much do we make? I think the biggest issue was talking to the people of this community, and that's who we got to sell on this. And I agree with all of you that something has to be done. But the community is the one that has to be sold on it. And for us to sit here and talk about down the road in 10 years or 5 years or whatever, the people here simply want to hear that we're not losing money. We're going to be able to at least break even in all the things we do. And then if we make money after that, then there won't be no gripes at all. But we've got to do something. Whether that's what we're talking about now, I don't know. I'm to the point of, is this the only way that we can do this to get us back in financial stability?
From my philosophy of running these funds the way that I think they're supposed to be run, the general fund balances, the enterprise funds support themselves. All the alternatives are inequitable. Back to what Sarah said, if we fix this through millage rates, it's inequitable.
It's not right.
You've got the wrong person paying for somebody else's expenses. And I just don't support it philosophically. Now, could we do it? Y'all can do whatever. That's the good thing about this is y'all are in charge and y'all decide and you can do whatever. But that's not equitable. What we have brought you, the staff, is what I think is the most equitable solution to what has existed here as a long-term problem, because you had a different philosophy about how to run the funds. Billerica has been okay with subsidizing the enterprise funds, but I will tell you that our general fund, along with those SPLOST monies, if you were to leave it alone and quit pulling money out of it and make those enterprise funds healthy, you are going to be happy. The community is going to be happy. Y'all have never been able to enjoy the benefit of the strength of your general fund and SPLOST money because you've been using it for the wrong thing. And so your roads have not been taken care of, and your municipal buildings are not what they could be, and the size of the police force and look at what you've already approved, an engineering position, bringing functions back in-house that we've shipped out to outsource companies or the county, an IT manager instead of outsourcing it, 2 new people in water and sewer to do the North Avenue project. That's the tip of the iceberg. I think y'all would be so excited to come into a budget next October, in the Octobers after that, with a healthy general fund. Y'all don't even know what that looks like. You've never enjoyed that. And I think you would be excited because that's the part of the government that y'all enjoy. Y'all don't enjoy water and sewer. Water and sewer to y'all is an issue when it's a problem. People are never going to tell you, man, I just love your water, right? Ever. They're going to come to you with, I got my water cut off, or my water's dirty, or I saw a leak and y'all haven't fixed it. That's
We
the only
can't flush
interaction
the
you're gonna have with
toilet
them.
when somebody's in the
Yeah,
shower.
you got a leak and I got a $400 bill.
Yeah.
That's all water represents to you, but the general fund is where Chris is and Vicky and the chief. And those are the direct services that people will give you accolades over. It's events and public safety and road conditions. And I think if we can get on that, you're gonna be really happy. I just don't know how else to say that.
Like I say,
So-
to me, the biggest issue to this whole scenario is when we've got people sitting out in the audience and we're saying, first, I agree with everything you're saying. But I'm being around this area for a while. There's folks in this community that's going to rebel if we have not been given options to look at. And personally, you just told me the best option is what we're going to do. But in the same respect, it looks as though on paper and wherever that we're just jamming this down their throat. And that's the issue that I'm thinking of, is trying to give people out here in the audience and all wherever the idea that we as a body have sat down and looked at, is this the best option for us to get back on track for where we really need to be? And that's the kind of stuff that to me, that's where we've got to sit down and put our heads together and then just simply say yes to this and yes to this and no to that, and then go on.
Verlin, it sounds like what you're saying is you're concerned that people aren't going to understand the need of it. And that's why I think we talk so much about education. I think the vast majority of our citizens, explained in the right way, where it's understandable, will go with us. There's always going to be some people that, no matter what you do, they're going to be upset. But we know it's irresponsible to not fix this.
I agree with you.
And there's going to be some people that are going to holler, they'd holler no matter what you did.
I agree with that too.
But if we can explain it and get it out there to people, we just got to do it. We've
I-
got to do it.
I want to echo what Councilman Marchman said, is in addition to the education, in addition to all the things we're talking about, this council needs to be very aware. I don't know what the number is of unbudgeted items that we purchased in 2017, but I know it's a lot. And so when we ask our residents to ante up and help right the ship, I think we all need to understand that when these unfunded projects come before us, or things that may be wants but not necessarily needs, we need to consider that very strongly, and that's what Councilman Marshman was saying. And we need to understand, I think, and have goals, clearly defined goals, like hiring the engineer with the thought that we're saving possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars in consultant fees, but we're also using that engineer to address the very problems we're talking about. But I hope that we all look at that and remember that we need to decide what a want is and what a need is, and we need to make sure we're addressing needs before we address wants. And I'm pointing fingers at myself also, but we just need to make sure, and I think that's what Councilman Marshman was saying. We don't need to send mixed signals that we don't have any money, and all of a sudden we spend $300,000 on an unfunded project. So.
We've been talking about this water thing, but, and I agree, we're gonna have to do some increasing to right the ship. And we'll explain it to the people. But we also, for the last couple of months, have talked about the huge amount of water we were supposedly losing and put together a plan to find that stuff. And I'd like to know, one of those items was calibrating 12 big old meters. Did we do that? He said it would take us a week, and that's been 2 months ago, so, are we planning on doing it? I mean, that's an easy thing to do, so, and that takes care of one of the top items on the list.
Yes, that's going to be the low-hanging fruit for sure. And we haven't started it yet, but I have definitely started moving in that direction.
I think we need to get on to those things, because if we cut out the water loss, we'll be in much better shape.
Absolutely. I agree.
That might be why he wants a few extra people. I'm guessing you're trying to get to a whole bunch of things.
I'm hoping he's gonna take some of these items that are easy, which Tom said would be one of the first things he'd do, and inside a week, calibrate 12 big meters. and mark that one off the list and move to the next one, because I think we ought to be moving on that, not sitting around waiting.
Yeah, I've already communicated to that to the folks that I have in mind to do that work, so
Okay,
that'll be
let's
rolling.
move on that one, because I'd like to eliminate that, at least know what the amount is, if we, where it's really going, if we really are losing that. It's a lot of money.
Yes.
And to Jeff's comment about unbudgeted things, I'm still not sure that we can't save in some of the budgeted items even that are wants. Now, Vicki, you won't be in charge of it anymore because it's all moving over to Main Street, right? All the entertainment events and that sort of thing. I really think we need to look at turnout, sponsorship. What's costing us a bunch of money that few people show up at and that sort of thing. Those are some of the fun things, but maybe less of them. Can we move so I can ask about the playground equipment? Are we kind of done with water sewer?
It's a
Well, I think
budget
we've been
meeting.
talking about methodology as far as water sewer rates. At some point, we need to have the public hearing, so that's council's desire.
For me, I just thought I wanted to have clarified why, instead of doing the playground equipment that's budgeted, we would go to the splash pad, and how much that's gonna cost, and why would we be doing it now rather than later? I need to be sold on it. In other words, because it does look like a want, right? Does that look like a want? So you need to tell me why we're gonna do that want.
Why that want is a need, huh?
Well, and not necessarily a need, because think about it. Playground equipment isn't necessarily a need, but you do have a recreation center with a playground area, and if your stuff is really decrepit, there might be legitimate reason to replace some of that decrepit stuff. So I just need to be sold on that, because I need to be able to explain it to my people.
Tom, let me ask you this question. I mean, I also have questions on the budget, and I know other council members do too, but, this was a budget hearing, and I think exactly what we wanted is what we got, and that's some direction from council, I believe, on where we need to head as far as the water sewer rates. Do you want to get into the specifics of the budget? Is that, because this meeting will end up, I don't care, I can stay here as long as y'all want to stay here, but
Now, I don't have to get it tonight, I just know I didn't get it answered
I
prior,
can
and
stay here all
originally,
night too, but I want to,
yeah.
I guess I really want to give them direction on these water rates.
Yeah, I think
I
we
would
need a
like to
consensus
solve
of some
that,
sort.
and then we can talk about the splash pad or the sweeper or whatever y'all want to talk about.
I think my consensus is we don't have a choice on the rates. They've got to go up, because we cannot raise the millage rate like they want to. There's no way. So,
Is that to say that you are in favor of the rates as proposed?
yeah,
That's my position.
I think we have no choice but to move forward on that.
I pretty much laid it out there. What else to say?
Well,
We got two.
Well, my thing is, if we need it, let's do it. But
yeah, we got to fix it.
if
We
we
can't-
need to do it, or if it's mandatory, those are two things that I say we forgot.
The enterprise fund's got to be fixed.
we don't have our attorney here, so I'm just going to ask for point of clarification here. Tom, are you looking for a motion? Because this was not advertised for that. Okay, so we just, what I would impress upon each of you is to let staff know what your desire is, and if you have any questions, please do so. And I would ask that, Tom, if you get those questions from council, that you copy all the other council members on that. And just keep in mind, y'all, that when we do this, we can't respond back, because then we are, violating the Georgia Sunshine Law. So when you don't have to respond. When Tom sends you something, just know that that's an
We're
information.
in the middle of a
thing.
call meeting, so we can take we can get a
Let me
consensus.
just ask a question. I just said that the next thing that happens is she gets the final budget. If they don't know what we're going to do, if we're going to then come back on the 5th of December and discuss this and make some change to it, that's why I want to make sure that we're all agreeing to what's here, or we're not. And we talk about it and we do something different. Because otherwise, they're then gonna be pushed back out, and we're gonna be into February or March next year approving a budget.
So I think we really need to settle up on whether or not we, an agreement on these rates. I think Gil's right on that question. Are we gonna fix the enterprise funds or not?
Yeah, because what we just said was for every month we delay the budget,
It costs us money.
it's gonna cost us $100,000.
We can't afford the money, we're dragging money out of our funds balance already. So either we start fixing it or we keep draining the fund balance.
Any other input from the council?
I could say the same thing again.
Tom, do you feel like you have direction to
I'm
move
ready.
forward?
I'm ready.
We're moving forward with this unless I hear something different.
Okay. Any further discussion on the presentation? I just want to say this, I said it Tuesday night, I'll say it again, I appreciate staff's hard work on this. This is not an easy solution for them, and it's certainly not for all of us. And, I appreciate all the time and effort that's been put into this, and we're not done yet, obviously. We're at a crossroads, and I appreciate this council's willingness to listen and to be receptive to what we need to do to right this ship and get us headed down the right path. So, Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to say to y'all again that you're going to like where we're headed, even though I understand that this is not popular. When I went to Fairburn, we had a negative fund balance in the general fund. Negative. And when I left, we had 3-something million, and that next audit, it went up like 4 million. So I know this can be done. And I've said this sort of jokingly, but as this rolls out, if you're not happy, you got one person to blame. And it's not Sarah. And it's not Pete. Right? I'm telling you what I think you should do. Y'all have supported everything I have recommended to y'all since I got here. I'm not taking this lightly, because I know that if this doesn't work,
Be pointing at you.
Just for clarification.
Where it's
that
gonna go.
person is
me,
Okay,
right?
it's gonna work,
So-
but the problem is, that we're gonna get a lot of feedback on it.
You are.
When you raise
You know
rates.
All right?
on-
And
Sometimes doing the right
and
thing
you
hurts.
should, because you have
Right?
taught, you Villarica, the council, the government has taught the community that they don't have to pay for what they use. And so just like anybody else, when you've done that for years and suddenly you have to start paying for it, you're gonna balk, hoping that you get some, backup. But
That's why we get paid the big bucks to make these
I
decisions, right?
understand. I
By the way,
understand.
what day do you two want to be on radio?
Be on the what?
I'll do it whenever.
Well, I mean, we're talking a while ago about being able to get all this stuff out to the public.
We
That's
can do that.
Probably as good a way as I know to be on radio in the morning in Carrollton. And,
Well, you got a water bill coming up in December too, so you can get some of this information into that December water bill.
I mean,
And if they don't listen to the radio, it's always podcasts, so we take the podcast, we put it on the Villarica happenings and make it available and send it out.
You all have the robocalls. I mean, we want everybody to be aware. We don't want people to be shocked.
Yeah.
All these ideas are, we need to be doing all of them.
Most people will understand.
Agreed.
And when we did the billing, the
Can't
cycle
slack off on
billing,
this one.
when I called Cassell to tell them we were gonna do it, they tried to talk me out of it.
We need to talk to who?
Cassell,
Cassell.
our
Our accounting
software.
software.
And I said, I told them we survived Temple, we've been through it, but, sorry. But I forgot where I was.
Now you done lost your train of thought.
But they were very concerned because people who've gone through it, had so much attack on them that they've either changed back or was so not worth it to them. And I said, well, you got the wrong people, because this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to advertise. And I listed it all out, and he said, okay, it sounds like you're prepared. And honestly, that couldn't have gone any smoother. But we did all the different things that you're talking about. We didn't do the radio, but we did everything else. So hopefully we can get the word out.
Berlin's gonna help you do the radio.
Okay.
I
Especially,
can make it happen, that's it.
Oh, they'd be glad to have you all on in the
you
morning.
know,
Community
especially in December when the water bills go out, take advantage of that one, because, you know, this is the last one this year.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not now.
Seeing none, we will move into tab A, which is, or actually, whatever it is, since we changed the agenda, but the public hearing portion of the meeting. Anyone wishing to provide public comment, please come forward now, state your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
I'm Dr. Nancy Mims, 17 Hickory Trail, Bella Rica. And yes, I was there this morning talking to some people because I didn't expect to see you all. I want to tell you that my job as a professor of research and working mostly with graduate students and doctoral students, I was probably really pleased to hear what you had to say tonight, because that obviously is where I was going this morning and where I've been going for a long time. I am an anomaly. I happen to be 76 years old, closer to 77, and I know that people in my area and in my home, in my street, do not deal with technology. I have a husband who has just now joined the 21st century because he is technologically challenged. And so when I'm taking a look at your budget, and yes, you have done a great job. Because I work with doctoral students and have chaired 19 successful dissertations and served on over 40 of them, I am Professor Emerita from the University of Georgia and West Georgia, and have been a department head at Western Carolina University working with doctoral students. I've been in Villa Rica for 30 years in January. And it is partially my fault as well for probably not picking up as I should have done before. But I look at the budget, and yes, it's detailed and it's great. But if I can make an analogy between what I do and working with doctoral students, a dissertation, a traditional dissertation, is 5 chapters. The first one is a proposal, the second is a lit review, and the third happens to be mythology, and then the fourth on the data collection, and the fifth is on recommendations. Now, we can forget the first 2, because no one is really interested in the lit review and a proposal. We know what the problem is, and it's there. My wanting to ask you, and the council tonight too, is that as you're proposing some of these things, and yes, I have recommended often that we give information to seniors and to everyone else, at least through the water department. Are they going to listen to a podcast? No. Are they going to do that? That's obviously evident in the full turnout for the elections that we even had on Tuesday. And I think that that's a big problem. We need to reach more people somehow. If it means having each council member have a town meeting with the people in their constituency, maybe that would help, because obviously even putting a notice on the city hall about the meeting tonight isn't going to do it. But getting back to methodology, I would want to know, and I think the other people would want to know, how did you arrive at some of these things? What were some of the variables that you put in there? I mean, even when you're comparing Villa Rica to Douglasville or to any other place, you know, the simplest statistic is a chi-square. But in order to have the proper distribution, you have to have the same thing in both categories. And so what are the demographics? What are the characteristics in there? What is the age of the people? Don't just tell me that, oh, they're the same size. Because if you're taking a look, for example, at Cobb County, you have a high socioeconomic area at the top of Cobb County and abject poverty at the very bottom. And yet there are many towns and cities within Cobb County. They may have the same population, but do they have the same demographics? And I think that that's important for us to look at. And that's one of the things I would ask my doctoral students. You know, if you're going to be defending this dissertation, give me all the specifics. I need to know that. The details that you've given in the budget are absolutely awesome. And I was following along with it so that I know exactly what you were doing, and that's great. In fact, by the way, I'm for tiered thing. I have no objections to the tiered water part of it. As a citizen, I think that is important, and I'm really very proud of the fact that Villa Rica 3 years ago, when I was doing pressure washing on the house, somebody actually came out and said, "Why did you have such a spike in your water?" Well, because we were doing the pressure washing. That's really good, and it needs to be there, okay? Now, my other point is this. In order to get people excited about Villa Rica, I love Villa Rica. I happen to also be a commissioner on historical preservation. And I think that it's a shame that we don't have people coming out here to see what's going on, because it's important. Many of you know that Tuesday night, yes, I am a DAR, I am interested in history. But, you know, you cannot run and become the citizen. the city that you want to be if you have draconian caveman type of situations in dealing with people. I was really pleased tonight to hear what you're doing, because this now is pushing me up and saying, okay, maybe somebody is listening to all of these things. Now, when you get to chapter 4, you have all that data. But I would want my students, besides the data, to tell me why. Explain it. And so I'm telling all of you that my suggestion would be to give them an executive summary. I was a Fulbright Scholar in 1996 to St. Petersburg, Russia, and the embassy asked me to come to Moscow to help them with their assessment and to also help them write an executive summary of what they were doing. And I think that the citizens of Villa Rica would really appreciate having an executive summary. They're not going to look at 115, 125 pages of a budget. I mean, the charts are nice and they're really great. But how about an explanation? So that when they do open up that bill and say that, oh my goodness, I'm now being taxed. I understand it, but as I said, I'm an anomaly. Not everyone my age understands that, and probably not even the younger ones as well. I happen to know that younger people aren't as good in technology either. I mean, they don't know how to keep from plagiarizing because they copy and paste in essays and they get tired of it, even my doctor's students. So it's there. But anyway, that's my 3 cents, 4 cents, or whatever it happens to be, and thank you very much for all of that. But yeah, if you need to have anybody from the outside telling you some other things, I'm here. I'm semi-retired, still teaching doctoral students. I'm teaching at Concordia University online and American University, as well as doing a few other things once in a while. But I am really concerned about Villa Rica. I love it when I have international visitors come. I do take them to the gold mine. I do show them what's going on there. Let's get excited about Villa Rica. Put in that Villa Rica trolley that I want to bring people around to see all of these different things that are going on. And do send them something in executive summary in their water. They're not going to watch television. They're not going to listen to the radio. I mean, unless they happen to have Sirius or they're in their cars. How many people actually do turn into it? Probably very few. And you've got a lot of people in Villa Rica who are working. By the time they get off work, they're not going to come to a meeting at 6 o'clock. If they do, they've got to go home and they've got everything else going on in their minds. Let's get out there and really be proud of Villa Rica. Let's make it a force to be reckoned with. Keep the ambiance in there. And for goodness sakes, folks, get out there and talk to the people. Don't do a survey that is a survey of convenience that doesn't reach all of us. That's it.
Thank you for your remarks.
But you got to do better than that.
Something need to be said.
That's hard to follow.
I would agree.
I'm a little discouraged tonight. First of all, for the turnout. We talk about a public hearing, and there are 2 of us, well, 3 counting Teresa. But she has to be here, so that doesn't really count.
She got paid to be here.
2 people turn out for public hearings, and you're talking about, do people care? I'm not sure they do. You'll do whatever you're going to do in the budget, and yeah, there'll be people that will complain about whatever it is. But why are they not here? Don't they care? That's
3.
foolish talk.
3 cares.
I don't know why they're not here. This is
Lots of stuff.
a budget discussion. This is a public hearing on the budget. All I've heard tonight have been water sewer rates. They're important, they're part of the budget, but it's a budget that we're talking about. And the water sewer rates are part of that, but they're only part of it. There's the rest of the budget. Now, this is a difficult budget this year. Every year seems to be a difficult budget. One of the things that makes it difficult to me is we haven't in the past presented the budget in the same format. So it's hard to look at last year's budget, put this year's budget beside it, and say, okay, what's changed? I laud Sarah for this budget. It's been hard. It's a great budget. It was well prepared, and it's well formatted. I hope we'll continue to do this format in future years, because then we can compare and contrast much more readily. So Sarah's done a great job, and I thank you very much for doing that. We've heard in the past, and in fact, those of you who are, congratulations on being reelected. When you came on, with the exception of Gil, last year, I think we were going through another fiscal year change. You've gone through fiscal year changes. We keep doing that periodically. But this one makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate, again, Sarah's effort in doing that. So I think we'll stick with this, I hope, at any rate. But this one sounds right. Now, looking at the budget, other than the water and sewer rates, we're adding a lot of people. We're adding, according to the budget, 8+ people. What's more than 8 people? Because we're adding part-time work, we're adding people later in the year. It's kind of hard to discern exactly how many. But we're adding a lot of people, and some of them are very expensive people. Now, I'm not questioning the need for these people. You've made that very clear. We do need them. We're in trouble. I laud Mr. Barber for bringing some of these problems to our attention. These problems have been going on for years and years and years. But until Tom came on board, I'm not sure that the council really appreciated how serious this city was in, serious a problem this city is in. So thank you, Tom, for bringing those to our attention. We need some of those people, but I've sat through council meetings many, many, many years now. And one of the things in the last 4 years that I've appreciated was when a budget item would come up, I would hear Danny Carter comment, "That's fine, where's the money coming from?" We need to hear that now. You know, we're adding a lot of staff, where's that money coming from? I guess I would like to hear some of that. So hopefully, I'm not questioning that we need them, we do need them. But where's that money going to come from? Water and sewer, no question, is our major issue for this city. But it's not just rates. It's related to that, but as been stated, we're losing hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. So we got problems with water pipes. We've got problems with sewers. I have not seen or heard a plan, maybe it's being done, but what are the plans to fix those? We need to keep the focus, this council needs to keep the focus on what the city's priorities are. And I think those are the key ones. Yeah, we need the personnel to help do this, but where's that money going to come from? We need water and sewer fixes, but do we need other kinds of things that are in this budget that look to me to be wants, not needs? Tourism, economic development, park rangers, patrol officers, Connor Road Trail engineering, Mirror Lake Connector engineering. Those are wants. They are not needs. We can put those off. Let's take that money that you would use for that. Let's fix water and sewer, not just the rates. Let's fix the problem. Keep your eye on that focus. We can put off these other things. Yeah, I've heard SPLOST is going to take care of that. You mentioned SPLOST. SPLOST is being used inappropriately in many ways. Take SPLOST and use it to help solve our problems. Don't tell me that this council is not smart enough to be able to manipulate SPLOST revenues to where the problems are. You know, yeah, we put buckets together. Not everybody agreed with those buckets when they were put together for SPLOST for this year. Use that money to solve our problems. Keep your eye focused on what our problems are, council, and their water and sewer. Fix them, and not just water rates, but let's fix the problem. Thank you very much. Appreciate your effort.
Thank you for your remarks. Anyone else? Ms. Reese, would you like to get up and say anything?
There's only one person left.
Since you're required to be here, would you like to get up and say anything?
Chief might want to say something.
Okay. Seeing none? Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn made by Councilman Carter, seconded by Councilman Marchman. Okay. All right, all in favor? I'm not sure who made the motion. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you to our two people that came tonight.
3, give her credit
Yeah,
now.
give her credit.
She didn't have to be here.
Yeah, she didn't really have to